All right, what's going on, you guys? This is Brian here, and this is my quick recap of this week's episodes of NXT and AEW Dynamite. Starting off with NXT, I'm just going to run through everything. This, of course, was coming off the heels of this past Sunday's NXT Takeover in Your House, where we saw Io Shirai win the NXT Women's Championship. Adam Cole retained his NXT Championship over Velveteen Dream in a backlot brawl, and everything else that happened. So on NXT this week, we had an Undisputed Era promo. We saw Johnny Gargano and Candice LeRae pick up a win over NXT North American Champion Keith Lee and Mia Yim. Indus Sure, they picked up a win in tag team action. We heard from Breezango, who next week will get their opportunity at the NXT Tag Team Championships as they challenge Imperium's Marcel Barthel and Fabian Aichner. Also next week, there's going to be a WWE Women's Tag Team title match as Tegan Nox and Shotzi Blackheart will challenge the winner of this Sunday's Triple Threat Women's Tag Team title match where Sasha Banks and Bayley defend against the Iconics and Alexa Bliss and Nikki Cross. The winner of that one will defend the titles next week on NXT against Tegan Nox and Shotzi Blackheart. We heard from Rhea Ripley, who was very disappointed that she did not become NXT Women's Champion this past Sunday. She would wind up taking it out on Robert Stone, who tried to get her to join the Robert Stone brand. Robert Stone hasn't been the same since being fired by Chelsea Green, and he paid for that he paid for interrupting Rhea Ripley by getting beat up. Then Finn Balor defeated Cameron Grimes. They also showed an interview that was trying to be conducted after Takeover in Your House this past Sunday with Tommaso Ciampa, who was leaving the building. They tried to get a word about him losing to Karrion Kross. He was having none of it, and he just drove off. Then Dakota Kai defeated Casey Catanzaro. They had a Timothy Thatcher promo that's setting up some kind of training session that he's going to be doing next week. El Hijo del Fantasma, the new Cruiserweight Champion, he turned heel and went under a new ring name or a new name change. He's no longer going to be, apparently he's not going to be known as El Hijo del Fantasma, but he'll be known as Santos Escobar. There was also two masked men that helped him attack Drake Maverick, and those were revealed to be Raul Mendoza and Joaquin Wilde, who were supposedly abducted a few months back. Then in the main event, Adam Cole would defeat Dexter Lumis and then have a message sent to him from Karrion Kross via Scarlett, who would bring a hourglass down to the ring and put it in the ring and flipped it over, and the sands started to fall. So obviously a clear-cut message sent to Adam Cole from Karrion Kross that Adam Cole's NXT title reign time is up. So that was it for NXT. Pretty okay episode this week. Now we move on to Dynamite to wrap up this recap. FTR, Dax Harwood, and Cash Wheeler, they defeated the Butcher and the Blade in tag team action. We heard from the Natural Nightmares, Dustin Rhodes and QT Marshall, who have a huge opportunity next week when they challenge for those AEW World Tag Team Championships against Kenny Omega and Hangman Adam Page. Penelope Ford, she picked up a big win in tag team action for her team of her and Nyla Rose as they defeated Chris Statlander and the current AEW Women's World Champion Hikaru Shida. We saw a Darby Allin promo where he was doing, after several attempts of trying to nail a skateboarding from the top of a ladder, he finally nailed it with a little bit of support from Tony Hawk. We heard from Dr. Britt Baker in a promo. The Best Friends and Orange Cassidy. They defeated Jake Hager and Santana and Ortiz of the Inner Circle. Afterwards, they would be left laying by Chris Jericho and the rest of the Inner Circle. Orange Cassidy would be busted open by Jericho with a baseball bat, and then he would get hit by Chris Jericho using a bag of oranges, a big bag of blood oranges. So that was it for that. Billy Gunn and MJF, there was a promo there between the two that would set up a match between them two for next week. We had a recap of what's been going on with Colt Cabana and the Dark Order, where Cabana had been on a losing streak, and the Dark Order wants to help him, and they offered for him to join the the Dark Order. Sorry, guys. And they told him to think about it. So Cabana, he had a match on this week's episode against Sammy Guevara. He wound up losing. And then after the match, the Dark Order would come out. All the members, including Evil Uno and Stu Grayson, who made their return. Mr. Brody Lee, he would come out and help Cabana to his feet. Then when the Dark Order left, a little while later, Cabana left the same way they were leaving. Then Matt Hardy would make an appearance. He would try to talk sense into Sammy Guevara, saying Guevara has potential, and he could realize his true ability, his true potential if he left Chris Jericho. Then he started turning into like Matt Hardy version 1 Matt Hardy, I should say. Then broken Matt Hardy, saying he's going to delete Sammy Guevara. Then we had a Joey Janela Sunny Kiss video where Joey Janela was at a bar drinking. Sunny Kiss drove past, offered him a ride, and they drove off, and it said to be continued. Of course, those two, they've been teaming up recently on, I believe it was not only Dynamite, but AEW Dark as well. There was a Colt Cabana backstage segment where he walked into Mr. Brody Lee's office. So that's going to be interesting to see if he actually takes the Dark Order up on their offer to join them. We heard from AEW World Champion Jon Moxley, who talked about Brian Cage, Taz, how he's felt every time somebody says that they can beat him, he feels disrespected. Taz would confront him. Then that was basically a distraction so that Brian Cage could sneak up from behind and attack Moxley, and it would end with Brian Cage putting Moxley through a windshield of a car. So, of course, these two will be doing battle for the AEW World Championship at Fyter Fest, which is going to be a 2-night event, July 1st and July 8th. I believe it's going to be a special episodes of Dynamite. So that's going to be interesting. Then in the main event, it was Cody successfully defending his TNT Championship against Mark Quinn of Private Party. Quinn, not 100% in this match. He suffered an ankle injury a few weeks ago. And then, and obviously still has not healed. So that kind of limited him a little bit. But he still brought the fight to Cody. However, Cody locking him into an ankle lock submission, making him submit and tapping out. So Cody is still the TNT champion. Afterwards, he would be attacked by Jake Hager, who came out when he went after Arn Anderson first. Then when Cody tried to make the save, Cody would get beat up until Private Party and Matt Hardy would make the save. Then here comes Santana, Ortiz, and Sammy Guevara, and a brawl would break out between those 8 men, and it would lead to Cody challenging Jake Hager and saying if he wants a shot at the TNT Championship, he's got it at Fyter Fest. So it looks like that's going to be a match that's going to be happening. Cody versus Jake Hager at Fyter Fest. Also announced, not only did as well, they announced also next week, not only is Billy going to face MJF, the AEW World Tag Team Championships will be decided as Hangman Adam Page and Kenny Omega defend against the Natural Nightmares. They also announced that the Young Bucks are going to face Jimmy Havoc and Kip Sabian. And also next week, in a huge tag team match that could have implications on Fyter Fest, the Best Friends are saying that they're going to put up their title opportunity at Fyter Fest on the line next week against Chris Jericho and Sammy Guevara. That's based on what happened in that whole situation with Inner Circle leaving the Best Friends and Orange Cassidy laying. So those are 4 huge matches signed for next week. So with that being said, this has been my NXT and AEW Dynamite recaps for this week's episodes. As always, I am Brian, and thank you for watching.